Just for a reminder, we have said that having been elected member of the Senate, that we swear in the name of God that we will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya, that we will obey, respect, uphold, preserve, protect, defend this Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, and that we will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a member of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, just in case we forget, the duties of a member of Parliament is oversight, and we at the primary level have another constitutional institution in the name of the County Assembly that has done its job at the primary level. We at the, Mr. Speaker.
You have run out of time. Senator Amos Wako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 3 points. One, it was alleged by one of the councils that this whole meeting is an illegality of the Senate. I want just to clarify that it is not an illegality, because as was pointed out, when you come to the computation of time, the period between the first Thursday of December to the second Tuesday of February, we are not in session according to our standing orders. And because we are not in session, the provisions of the interpretation, and General Provisions Act 57B apply. This relates to the computation of time. I'm just trying to really clarify that so that the public knows that we are properly constituted. If the last day of the period is Sunday or a public holiday or all official non-working days, so the period between December and January, as I've stated, it's a non-working day. These are deemed to be excluded days from the computation of time under any act of law. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are within the law at our meeting. The second point I want to refer to, Mr. Speaker, sir, is now our jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, sir, the matter that we are supposed to investigate under these proceedings, it is to investigate under Clause 2, investigate the matter. And what is that matter? We are supposed to investigate under impeachment proceedings, Mr. Speaker, sir. It is the particulars of allegations against the governor. Our jurisdiction is confined to investigating particulars of allegations against the governor, and not just everything as we were led to believe. Now, it may very well be that the situation was such that there were some matters incidental to this, like the issue of jurisdiction. Now, if we come to that,
I have run out of time. Senator, I said I will not set a precedence, and I want to maintain that. You've made your point. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Maybe 3 questions or 3 points I want to raise. One, we have sat patiently for the last 2 days listening to many submissions by both the governor and the county assembly. And it is so sad that the standard that has been set in the 8 impeachment proceedings that have been made by the House, the provisions of Article 181 will not be met, because most of those charges that have been preferred are not as gross violation of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, secondly, there has been no nexus that links the governor between the charges and on the part of either commission or omission of the governor, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, even the issues of evidence, issues of impeachment as a tool of good governance, Mr. Speaker, sir, we should do the right thing, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, even if today the decision has to be made that Governor Waititu will be impeached. It will haunt us forever, because we never gave him the opportunity to give his side of the story or the evidence that was given. Be it the factional that you want to call either Tanga Tanga, Kieleweke, BBI, ODM, NASA, it will not be remembered when the history of this house will be written or will be referred by us and the posterity that will come up to us, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, even as we discuss this, we must be aware that even as Article 96 gives us power to protect the devolution and to protect the counties. If today we become part and process in ongoing and get into the dirty words of political machinations and propaganda and deep state of Kiambu County politics, Mr. Speaker, sir, we should have rise beyond those partisan interests that are in Kiambu. Mr. Speaker, sir, we should allow counties to function. We should allow the devolution to function in this country, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I conclude, I want to implore my colleagues that when history will be written, when answered will be revisited, it will haunt us forever. I know for Waititu is a case where government eats its own children. I know because Waititu is being impeached is because of politics. There is nothing else. Let us stop all these stories and glossing over. He is being impeached because of politics.
Order.
And I oppose.
Order, Senator. First of all, you are out of order. First of all, order. Honorable members, let us reduce our emotions. Order, members. Remember, the whole world is watching us. A decision has yet to be taken on whether he's being impeached or not. And you are going to be given that opportunity through a vote, to vote the way you want. So please let us reduce these emotions so that we are able to proceed well. Senator Olekina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, it has been repeated here constantly that the governor was not given a chance to be heard, which is not true. I think we should be a house of reason. Our standing orders are very clear, Mr. Speaker, sir. When a governor chooses to appear before the Senate to participate in his impeachment, he is called upon to respond to every single allegation. The letter, Mr. Speaker, sir, that, or rather, the PO, the preliminary objection, in my view, Mr. Speaker, sir, and to quote the words of the former Chief Justice, Willie Mutunga, has been moved more as a sword than a shield. Such is not permitted, as it ought to occasion an injustice to the applicant and indeed to the wider public interest. Mr. Speaker, sir, Article 159(2) of this Constitution also reiterated that. It states clearly that justice shall be administered without undue regards to procedurals and technicalities. When we talk about an issue of quorum, which has been raised in this House, Mr. Speaker, sir, the public ought to know that the issue of quorum is not an afterthought. It may be a fundamental issue for any legislative process, but it is not an afterthought. Mr. Speaker, sir, I saw the letter by the Speaker of the Kiambu Assembly. And when the governor comes and states that there was no quorum, in my view, what the governor is doing is that he's now also questioning the office of the Speaker. And if indeed that process was not proper, or it was not, because in my view, it's a prima facie proof that all legal procedures have been followed, in that case, unless it is contended and challenged as a fraud, then in this House, we must make a determination based on what has been presented, based on the facts that has been submitted here by the Assembly. And I want to remind you, as I end, that the genius of an impeachment, as once said by someone, lays in the fact that it could punish an individual, but not the office. We're not here to punish the office, but if
Senator Sakaja.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yet again, throughout this trial, I've been representing members of the House who are not learned friends, but highly educated, and they make the majority of the House, because we have only 3 senior counsel. Mr. Speaker, I've been a senator for 2 years, 151 days, and 4 hours. And Mr. Speaker, in that period, this is the first time we've gone through such a process, and I'd like to commend senators for sitting through it, as well as the lawyers who represented both sides. Mr. Speaker, going very quickly, because I've heard what my colleagues have said in many words. We need to realize one thing, Mr. Speaker. There's been the argument that we are not thinking about the stakes in this case. Every side has brought its issues, and I'm glad that the County Assembly was represented and they brought their issues. Mr. Speaker, from my little understanding, when you file a preliminary objection, even in the court of law, you accompany it with your pleadings, with your witness statements, so that in case the PO is dismissed, you quickly go into trial. I feel very strongly that the governor actually has been misled by his legal team, and it's his choice. But if those issues were brought to us, Mr. Speaker, we'd have listened to it. Let it go down on record that Governor Ferdinand Waititu Babayao has had his right to be heard by the Senate. And we actually have heard him even in his closing statements. But Mr. Speaker, the stakes in this case is not about the career of an individual. Protecting devolution is not protecting an individual. The stakes are the lives of millions of residents of Kiambu. The stakes is not about somebody's family, etc. It is about all of those who could have either been disinherited from that plot of land, all of those who depend on a country that stands against corruption. The threshold that we have in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, Article 181, it says very simply that if you have serious reasons to believe that that crime has been committed, Mr. Speaker, the threshold is above balance of probabilities and below reasonable doubt in a criminal case. And I think this House has been convinced. I'd like to urge senators. Senator Aaron has said that let us be logical. But beyond being logical, let us be ethical. It cannot be that we say, oh, this was not the wife because you've not brought a certificate. Mr. Speaker, we all know the First Lady of Kenya is Margaret Kenyatta. She's the wife of the President. Who has seen the wedding certificate? We all know the wife of Deputy President Ruto is Rachel. Have you seen the certificate? Let us not be legalistic, but let us be ethical and let it be known. Let it be remembered. Senator Cherargei is saying that we will regret. Let it be remembered, let it go down in history, that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, as you make your decision, has stood with Kenyans today and has made a decision that is right.
Senator Samson Ongeri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One question that we must ask ourselves: when you query the quorum of the Kiambu County Assembly, I expected that the governor with his team will provide an affidavit of the people who did not attend that function. I waited for it, I didn't see it. So we have no business to listen to fable stories that there was no quorum. We have a duty as Senate to accept the letter of transmission from the Kiambu County Speaker that was the authentic quorum that brought us those material here. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I heard the governor on oath saying that the wife that was cited, no, he was never sworn, but he gave a statement in this House that the wife who was cited in corruption with his family was not a family member. I expected him to produce an affidavit decanting that the lady cited in corruption was not his wife, that the children cited in corruption were not his daughters, and I would have had an opportunity and be persuaded to listen that that was possible. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I find it irreconcilable when you are saying that we must prove beyond doubt, reasonable doubt, gross misconduct. What can be gross misconduct other than depriving a widow, leave alone a married lady, a widow, her only level of subsistence by being able to find a way of forcing her under duress to be able to bring about a change of the title deed. Commission of Administrative Justice did the right thing. It's a constitutional mandate. On those 3 points alone, Mr. Speaker, I'm fully persuaded that he is to go home. Thank you.
Senator Susan Kihika.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have also been in the House for the last 2 days and listened very closely to the submissions by both sides. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm quite astounded when I hear senators talk about the process not being important. When they talk about that as Senate, we should probably, I guess, what I'm hearing is that we should just be rubber stamps, and whatever is brought to us, we should not interrogate, we should not question the validity of the process, but just proceed with what is before us. Mr. Speaker, I disagree with that, and I believe that even in our standing orders, and the 5th schedule, number 2, the Senate shall in plenary investigate the matter and determine whether the particulars of the allegations against the governor have been substantiated. Mr. Speaker, from the evidence that I've had in the last 2 days, first of all, I would like, and I want the record to reflect that we never got any evidence as to
Senators,
whether...
let's consult in low tones.
Mr. Speaker, we never got any evidence brought before the House, and it is not for us to provide it, nor is it for the governor to provide, as to whether the issue of quorum was ever addressed. We had the first speaker, the mover of the motion at the county assembly, say that he was not sure whether the 62 out of 92, which is the 2/3, were in the House. So when we brought a motion here, when it's brought here and there is question as to whether the quorum was there, then I do not even believe we should have been able to proceed without that having been determined. The fact that it was ruled on today as opposed to yesterday, I also believe prejudiced the side of the governor. We also had some very serious contention that the governor was not given, his right to be heard was taken away. When his counsel went to the county assembly and wanted to present the case on behalf of the governor or to respond, they were told from the evidence that came out here to just sit in the gallery with everybody else. So it's a miscarriage of justice, and I believe that due process must be followed. As the Senate, it is our job and it is our duty to make sure that the process was proper, and it is also our job to make sure that we interrogate the process. So everything else that comes after that is questionable because I believe that the process was not properly handled at the county assembly level. However, regardless of the outcome of the Senate today, I am happy that we have the courts in this country that maybe work as the buffer at the end of the day, given the miscarriage of justice that I've just had here. The fact on the land issue, which has been brought as a very emotional issue, at the end of the day, we are not supposed to deal with emotions. We are supposed to get raw facts and evidence. They were short on that, but they really did stoke our emotions. So we never saw any affidavits from the widow. She was never brought forward. So to me, that evidence has not been substantiated. And because it has not been, then I would not vote.
Senator Wambua Enoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also contribute to this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by saying that really this is a very unfortunate case. It is my first case on impeachment as a first-term governor. The Speaker, a lot of my colleagues have said that they fault the lawyers on the side of the governor for maybe misadvising the governor on the filing of evidence. I am not very sure, Mr. Speaker, whether we can make that determination, whether the lawyers failed or maybe the governor did not take good advice. Mr. Speaker, I say this because reference has been made, not once, not twice, but 3 times, on bundles of evidence lying in the office of the chief not the chief, the Chief Sergeant at Arms office. And Speaker, those documents lying there will not help the governor in any way. They will not help us in making any decision. Those documents would have been very helpful to the governor and to this House if they were filed and filed in good time. The Speaker, I want to say this, that in view of the failure by the governor to file his evidence the right time, this House is left with only one case. The charges as adduced by the Assembly. And the decision that will be made by this House, Mr. Speaker, will be a decision based on the evidence adduced by the Assembly of Kiambu. The Speaker, it is very unfortunate that the governor, either by bad advice or by refusing to listen to good advice, did not even have an opportunity to call a single witness to rebut a single charge against him. The Speaker, as we make a decision, it should be noted that the decision that you're going to make today is not just about Governor Waititu. It is also about the more than 1 million residents of Kiambu County. And where I come from, Mr. Speaker, public opinion is very important in making decisions about people and their leaders. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Linturi.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will be very brief. And since most of the speakers have agreed or alluded to the fact that this being quasi-judicial, Mr. Speaker, I want to basically say that in the proceedings, we are not really bound by the strict rules of evidence. And Mr. Speaker, when we are determining this matter, what we are being called upon to do in the absence of this evidence, or in the absence of evidence before us, is that basically we are going to determine on this matter by having failed to admit evidence on the basis of a technicality, which in my view is a violation of Article 159, sub-Article 2 of the Constitution of this Republic. Mr. Speaker, the matter that we are deciding on is very weighty. The election of a governor, the office of a governor, Mr. Speaker, the authority under which he acts, is through the donation by the people of this Republic. And Mr. Speaker, that being the case, one of the questions that I would beg the members of this House to think and answer by way of their conscience when voting is whether a county assembly composed of 57 members, the senators, 47 people, because those are the delegations that have authority and power to vote on such an important motion, is whether, Mr. Speaker, it will be fair, whether it's constitutional, whether it is right to oust the power of the people of Kiambu who decided to elect Governor Waititu as their governor, whether that authority from them can be ousted by a number of people of less than 100. Mr. Speaker, I am persuaded to believe that recognizing the prevailing circumstances under which the governor was required to collect that information and bring it before us, and having explained himself by the virtue of the fact that he was banned from office, and having failed to get, in my view, the county assembly, having failed to substantiate the matters, this matter is going to be decided on the basis as if it is not defendant, though I'm not convinced that there is substantive evidence that requires, or that has made the threshold of him being kicked out of office. And for that matter, Mr. Speaker, when there is doubt, my view is that that benefit of doubt should be to the benefit of the Governor Waititu. Mr. Speaker, I am very, very, very reluctant, and it's with a lot of pain that this is happening. This is happening, and I do not want to cast aspersions on anybody, but this being a political process, we cannot run away from the politics.
You've run out of order. Senator Mwenyehaji Mohamed.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza ningependa kuunga mkono hoja ya kumpeleka nyumbani Governor Kiambu, Governor Waititu. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala la kwamba hakupewa nafasi ya kujitetea ni swala ambalo si la kweli. Governor Waititu alikuwa hapa jana na leo. Jana alisema katika County Assembly ya Kiambu alikataa kwenda kwa sababu ungekuwa na mtafaruku. Hapa leo amepewa fursa ya kujitetea, lakini akatoa statement ama akatoa taarifa bila ya kula kiapo. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala lililokuwa hapa ni kwamba kulikuwa na ushahidi kwa kiapo kusema kwamba yeye amemuoa bibi anayeitwa Susan Wanjiru. Amemuoa bi Susan Wangui Ndungu, mke wake wa ndoa kwa kulingana na mila za Kikikuyu. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakataja watoto wake kwamba wamehusika katika kupewa zabuni katika kaunti ya Kiambu, wakati yeye kama gavana alikuwa hastahili watu wale kupewa zabuni zile. Mheshimiwa Spika, wote ni ushahidi ambao katika mikono ama koti ya mwananchi unamaanisha kwamba ni ushahidi ambao ni wa uhakika wa kuweza kumpata na hatia. Mheshimiwa Spika, hapa sisi tulikuwa hatuko katika kushtakiwa. Mashtaka yalikuwa ni ya Waititu dhidi ya bunge la kaunti ya Kiambu. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, swala lilokuwa hapa ni kwamba maamuzi yetu lazima yazingatie sheria na vile vile pia yazingatie masuala ambayo yako mikononi mwa wananchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, katika mahakama ya mwananchi, mtu anapokataa kula kiapo ni kwamba hasemi ukweli, kwa sababu yoyote anayekula kiapo anatakana aseme ukweli. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, alipoambiwa aape kwamba yaliyofanyika sio sawa, Governor Waititu aliamua kutoa taarifa tu bila ya kuapa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba yale yote ambayo yalizungumzwa kwa kiapo ni mambo ambayo hayakupingwa, na kwa lingana na sheria ni kwamba yale mashtaka yote matatu ambayo yamezungumziwa yamepita. Mheshimiwa Spika,
order members, let us converse in low tones.
Mheshimiwa Spika, kulikuwa na ushahidi wa tume ya sheria ya mamlaka ya sheria, Commission for Administrative Justice. Uamuzi ule ulitolewa kutoka Septemba mwezi wa 9 mwaka jana, na Gavana Waititu hakuchukua fursa yoyote ya kwenda mahakamani kupinga uamuzi ule, wala hakuchukua fursa yoyote ya kwenda katika tume ile kujitetea katika tume ili kuona kwamba jina lake limesafishwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kunyamaza wakati tume kama hii ya kisheria ambayo iko katika katiba imetoa maamuzi, Mheshimiwa Spika, ningeomba uniongezee dakika kwa sababu muda wangu mwingi.
Haitawezekana. Order, Senator. Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, members. Order, let us be orderly so that we move.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to support this motion. Number one, let me congratulate the County Assembly of Kiambu. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I think the Governor of Kiambu and his lawyers intentionally refused to defend this case. That is my position. Number three, Mr. Speaker, the matters of allegation against the governor that is brought on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, is a matter this House has been grappling with over the years. Issues of pending bills. We have said severally that corruption is hidden under pending bills. Secondly, issues of wage bill, Mr. Speaker. There are matters that has been brought severally in Auditor General's report. There are matters this House has discussed severally. When the government has set a ceiling of 35, some counties are at 59%. Mr. Speaker, let me urge those who are going to oppose this motion. From today, if you oppose this motion, you should not discuss issues of pending bills. You should not discuss issues of wage bill. You should not discuss issues of audit reports. That is my position. Finally, Mr. Speaker, something that I will not forgive Governor Waititu is disposition of a property of a widow in that county. Mr. Speaker, I fully support this motion, and this should send a signal to all the governors, because we cannot let this go. We cannot be talking about these things in this house, and when governors appear before us, we say this is politics, and we forget about our responsibility. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mazayo.
Asante bwana Spika. Pia mimi nataka kuunga mkono hoja hii. Kitu cha kwanza, wahenga walisema mwerevu hajinyoi. Kitu cha kusikitisha,
Order members, let us converse. Let's listen to what is.
Wale mawakili wa gavana waliofika hapa hawakuweza kufaili ama kuweka stakabadhi zao za uteteo wa gavana kulinganishana na yale makosa ambayo yalikuwa yametendwa na yameletwa na serikali ya mashinani ya huko Limuru, ya huko Kiambu. Bwana Spika, walipoulizwa ni kwa sababu gani hamkufanya hivyo, walisema ni kwa sababu badala ya wewe kujitetea pale, sisi tutaambia lile bunge kupitia kwa hii PO ya kwamba bunge lile la Senate halina haki ya kusikiza kesi hii ambayo imewakilishwa na bunge la kaunti ya Kiambu. Bwana Spika, hapo ninaona ya kwamba walijaribu kujinyoa wao wenyewe, na badala ya kumtumikia yule gavana walikuwa wanatumia nafsi zao. Bwana Spika, ilikuwa nataka kusema ya kwamba pia cha pili, kawaida ya kisheria, mtu akiwa amefile stakabadhi za kujitetea anaruhusiwa pia kufile ile PO ambayo tunaita preliminary objection, na akifika tuone ya kwamba amefile ile yake ya kujitetea, na alafu baadaye aseme ya kwamba kabla hatujasikiza hii kesi ingekuwa vyema tusikize hii PO yangu kwa sababu itasaidia uhamasisho hapa. Lakini haikuwezekana. Kwa hiyo wao walijikata maguu wenyewe wasiweze kulalamikia mtu yote. La pili ni kwamba mimi natoka katika eneo la Pwani ambalo lina mateso makubwa sana kulinganishana na hali ya mashamba. Ni aibu kuona mtu kama gavana ananyang'anya mama mjane shamba lake, alafu baada ya kujulikana analiregesha. Sasa sheria inasema ya kwamba si swala la kuregesha shamba kwamba hukufanya makosa. Sheria inaadhibu ile akili ya uhalifu. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi nataka kusisitiza kwamba hoja hii ni muhimu, na hoja hii ni lazima iwe funzo, kama vile dadangu Fatuma alivyosema ya kwamba iwe funzo la wale
Basi asante sana kwa kuchangia Senator Langat Christopher.
Thank you very just give me time. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity to make my comments. First, I must appreciate that the Senate is active fully. Some members who have never been here up to this time, today they are very active, and that is a plus. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the fact that I want to say this is a very important case that has been presented before the Senate. When I saw it in the first instant, Mr. Speaker, I say, wow, it is the great time that at least our governors will see the importance of this particular house. And I want to say, in as much as that one is very important, always in every theory, Mr. Speaker, sir, the end and the process goes together. We cannot ignore the means, because more often than not, the means justify the end. And I want to say that also for the MCAs in their counties to learn that it is very important to follow procedures and the set standards. I tend to think that we should not ignore the fact that the threshold of the numbers was not arrived at. The world is seeing us, and we don't want to set precedent where tomorrow some very few MCAs somewhere might sit and bring an impeachment into this particular house. So I want to say that the process is very important, and we don't want to ignore it. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I saw also, I'm not saying this out of sympathy or any emotional aversion, but I want to say governors, by the way of everything, have got a lot of fear. It is very true that in some counties, some MCAs are threatening the governors, that unless they do one or two things, they will face impeachment. So in another way, we must also make sure that we raise our standards so that whenever MCAs bring such particular cases before the Senate, they are also sure that this Senate is not a rubber stamp for their demands that are not constitutional in the process. So I want to say, Mr. Speaker, also that in this same case, it's also very unfortunate that the Senate might not have that capacity or the powers to question very much the witnesses that came from the county assembly. As Mr. Malala was saying, in future also I tend to think that we should reinforce what he had said, the fact that when we impeach the governor, his choice was his deputy and they should go together.
You are out, Senator Mbungeini and Okongo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct the impression that is being created before this House that Governor Waititu was denied an opportunity to be heard. Mr. Speaker, we all know that an opportunity to be heard does not mean that we pull you to this House and force you to bring evidence so that it can be considered by this House. Opportunity to be heard, Mr. Speaker, means that we accord you an opportunity to present your evidence before this House, Mr. Speaker. And the rules gives Mr. Honorable Waititu 3 days under Rule 6. But what have we seen, Mr. Speaker? We have sat here, accorded Waititu 4 hours. There was no evidence given on oath by Mr. Waititu. There was not even a name of any one witness that was put forth before the Senate who could have come to give evidence to rebut what the Assembly of Kiambu had placed before the Senate. Mr. Speaker, we all appear in tribunals, in courts of law. If you are given an opportunity to present evidence and you don't present it, it will be used against you. It has even been used against the president of this country. In the election petition of 2017, the president was told to avail servers. He did not do it. The Supreme Court nullified his election. So we must send a strong message to the governors that if you are told to come here and adduce evidence, you must do it. If you don't, we have no choice. Mr. Speaker, what are we expected to do? There is even Rule 9 of the 5th schedule, which gives the governor an opportunity to make request to this House to summon any witness to appear here. That opportunity was not exercised by Governor Waititu. He had colorful lawyers. But even if you have a good case and you mess it up, how do you help this House? I submit, Mr. Speaker, that without rebuttal of evidence that was placed by the County Assembly of Kiambu, Governor Waititu has himself to blame. I rest my case.
Senator Omanga Millicent.
Mr. Speaker, I would say it's a very sad day in this country as I see my colleagues' debates. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record. And it's a house of uniformity, consistency, and I would say standards. Mr. Speaker, when we had, I would use Governor Gachagwa's case, the governor of Nyeri County, because it's the only case, when I look back, which came to plenary. and the way the case was treated, Mr. Speaker, is very different from the way the case of Mr. Waititu, the governor of Kiambu, has been treated. First, Mr. Speaker, in the Nyeri case, when the House was taking a decision whether we should go to plenary or we should do committee, the vote was by delegation. But this one for Kiambu, it was different. Everyone had to vote because already people had taken their different political persuasion. The same case of Governor Gachagua, Mr. Speaker, this House was able to admit evidence after the time which was given. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask myself, and some of us who are new legislators in this House, I'm wondering, is it case by case that some governors who come here, the evidence can be admitted whatever time, but some other governors, because I don't know what it is, the evidence cannot be admitted. Another thing, Mr. Speaker, I'll say, the issue of quorum and the threshold. Mr. Speaker, for this House to disregard the importance of threshold, it's a very sad day. That's what I mean. Today, even the senators here, does it mean if we don't get the 24 delegation, does it mean we'll still pass this Waititu's case? It will not pass because there's a threshold. But, Mr. Speaker, because
What
this
is your
case...
point of order, Senator Khaniri?
Mr. Speaker, it will be...
Take your seat.
Mr. Speaker, it will be very wrong if the statements that have been made by Senator Omanga goes unchallenged and they remain on the Hansard. Because she has clearly stated that this House disregarded the issue of threshold. Mr. Speaker, it is my submission that no evidence was put on the table here to prove to us that the County Assembly of Kiambu did not meet the threshold. So is she in order, Mr. Speaker, because she is imputing improper motives on this House?
Okay, I'll add you half a minute.
Mr. Speaker, that's a debate altogether for another day. But I would say again, Mr. Speaker, the deputy minority leader, whip of this House, was on television yesterday morning anticipating debate that we are sending the governor home. I'm asking you, Mr. Speaker, because already this is a leadership of the House. And already then I don't see the point where the governor was appearing in this House because the leadership had already given direction that we are sending the governor home.
Order. I did give direction that I was going to give a ruling on this matter later. So why you are becoming very emotional and sensational? We don't need that drama. Please compose yourself and conclude your issue.
And Mr. Speaker, I think I've made my point. The ruling which you were to make is the conflict of interest, where the partner...
I'm very clear in my mind on what I say. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I would say, with the precedents this House is setting today, it means in the county assemblies, 10 MCAs will be sitting somewhere, impeach a governor. They come to this House, and because most of us are arguing that we have no way of knowing whether the threshold was met, we will continue listening to the case and give and actually give debate on something. For me, literally, this governor was not impeached, Mr. Speaker, because
your time is up. Thank you, Senator Moses Wetangula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be very brief. Mr. Speaker, as we retreat to make our decision, we must bear in mind and consider whether the distinguished governor was given a fair hearing at the County Assembly. That's a point to ponder. Number two, Mr. Speaker, if that was the case, then remember the words of Kathy Kilonzo, that if the process is legitimate, the outcome can be legitimate. The Speaker, number two, I think the office of the Senate in cases such as this must also be helpful to the public. When a governor and his team come to file documents, I think the legal team of the Senate should guide them on what documents to put in and how to file their documents for better consideration by the House. Number three, Mr. Speaker, you know, the impeachment process is very exciting and emotive for all of us. We've gone through 8 of them here. And Mr. Speaker, most of them have ended up being what we know, especially those that we impeached, like Wambora twice. Number four, Mr. Speaker, I believe that even as the issues are as clear as we're saying, Governor Waititu did not enjoy the full benefit of a fair hearing by excluding his documents. Mr. Speaker, this is not a court of law with the strictest rules of application of procedure. This is quasi-judicial, and we should have taken his documents and looked at them. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the House that if you have any doubt in your mind, don't destroy this man. If you have any doubt in your mind, cast your vote to assist the cause of justice. Double jeopardy is an issue we should not ignore because there's another collateral process going on that will give justice to the victims of the omissions and acts of Governor Waititu. Thank you.
Senator Maruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity you've given me to support the motion of impeachment of Governor Waititu, alias Baba Yao. For starters, I must say that